Welcome back to the big issue. And for those of you who have just joined us, we're having a discussion about politics generally. The sitting president, Adrian Akufo-Addo, has been traveling around the country. So has the former president on a thank you tour. A lot of issues have emerged from the former president's use of the 2020 election being one that will be do or die. A lot of people have taken offense at that. He has also been defended by sections of the political community as well. We are also discussing the economy because they have also exchanged barbs on the current state of the economy, what exactly it says. And I've been having the conversation with the Member of Parliament for Tema Central, the Honorable Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed.
Comrade. Give him the honorable title.
And then Richard Asante, Deputy Communications Director, New Patriotic Party. Franklin Kujo is the President of Imani Africa. And for those of you who want to reach us with your messages, you can do so via 0549 986 996, 0549 986 996, or 0550 5832. You can also send us a tweet on that City973 using the hashtag The Big Issue, or you can send it to me on my own Twitter handle at East Sportsman using the same hashtag The Big Issue. Also, you can catch us on our Facebook pages, and also you can check us for playback on CityTube, which is our YouTube channel, CITI Tube, TUBE. Subscribe, type in The Big Issue, and you can gladly find us and play us back. So back in studio, I had given I just want to move to the second part of the conversation. You can just add your 1 minute that I took away previously. Richard still has 2 minutes outstanding. But all I'm saying is that the second part of the conversation has been... Hold on. Just listen to me first, Mutala. You can say what you want to say as part of the second part of the conversation. I'm not going to take that away from you.
Oh, no, I don't mind. Okay. I wanted to tell you that you can even add him 2 minutes.
Okay.
He's eager to comment.
I'm coming to you. So, as part of the second part of the conversation, the economy has come up. The former president has said the economy is a mess, that he left a far more stable economy, says that sloganeering will not take away the damage that has been done to the economy by the sitting president. Has also spoken about how, yesterday in fact, spoke about how the current government is using COVID as a guard against its, or as an excuse basically, to make up for the problems of the economy. The sitting president has also responded everywhere he's been and said he's not going to take lectures on how to manage an economy from the former president. For a lot of people sitting back, they look at it and it's like, okay, here we go. And this is like December, just a few months ago, away. We are back at a conversation over the economy. What has your side made of these criticisms of the economy? There are those who say, well, there are genuine difficulties. If you look at the current inflation rate, we even heard from the president of the Ghana Association of Bankers, Mr. Kuma, who has also, Johnny Wa, who has spoken about the concerns that they have about the rising inflation rate, although it is still within the single digits that the government has always wanted it to be at. The rising prices in foodstuffs and the concerns that have emerged from the ports over the past 2 weeks. The CD has not been performing well over the last 2 or 3 months, although again the government comes out and says we have things under control. So the government says it feels it has its leg on the situation, it's in control. The former president feels no, you can do better, and the numbers also say different things. What do you make of all this?
Okay, thank you very much. Before I go on that tangent and address your question, I think I would want to make certain facts known to the good people of this country. Indeed, it is not right for a soul to be lost in any election. It doesn't add up to our democracy.
Certainly.
It doesn't help in any way, because you do not know the kind of contribution those individuals who were passed on as a result of how certain things are conducted at the polling station, or as a result of even elections. What these people could have done to help the country going into the future. We know people die because of all manner of reasons, but elections and building our democracy, one would not want to encourage people going into elections because of violence and they losing their lives. We've seen a litany of all those issues. I think the worst we've seen so far was 2020 elections, where in excess of 30 people died. In Boko alone, we have about 30 people dying. It was reported by Reuters, and I think Ghana, if you check their webpage, I think 14 December 2000, you will get all those numbers. It tells you that, and fast forward 2016, we also have people dying as a result of elections. We do not want to encourage that. That is why some of us
none of
don't
them
want
were
to
state instigated.
Please,
This was
please.
state
That is
instigated.
let's just stay with that.
Yes.
So you will not want to encourage anybody dying for whatever reason. You do not want to encourage that people should go and pick a ballot box, snatch it whilst running away. Some security person will shoot them and they will fall and die. You do not want to encourage that. You don't want to encourage people fighting at the polling station, somebody going to pick a ballot papers and all that and tearing them and altercation coming and all. Those things you do not want to encourage that. But when as much as we do not want to encourage them, we do not also want political actors to go out there and let their utterances degenerate matters and create problem for the country. Because the sort of atmosphere that has been created for them over the years in this country, for which reason they've been able to go through the various ranks, and now they are seeking to occupy or come back to occupy the top echelons of the political cluster. That sort of atmosphere ought to be maintained for others to also grow in there. If certain had happened to them, they would have died before even getting to at the age of being a minister, deputy minister, and all those things. So those are the things that I want to say. Now let's come to the economic matters. Anybody who wants to be fair to the facts, who will not want to close their eyes to the facts and play blind eyes to bare facts that are staring in their face, and deaf ears to the issues that are being preached, and whilst even figures are screaming loud at them, they still want to close their ears and eyes, would understand that in terms of economic performance, the NDC has no business comparing itself to the MPP in any of those indicators.
But does not prevent them from criticizing you.
You can criticize, because of course MPP at every point in time, people look out to us and expect more from us. But in terms of comparison, you cannot. NDC is a disaster in terms of their performance in the economy, in everything in this country. It's a disaster. But when you were saying that MPP, we are expecting you to drive inflation to 1%, 2%, and it's about 7% or 8%, so we are not comfortable. Though you took it from NDC, when NDC was exiting, it was about 15.8%. You have the right to criticize because you're expecting more from us because of what we've shown over the years. When you say that when you came to power, NDC had interest rates hovering around 32-35%. When MPP came to power, 2017, thereabout. That is where the interest rate is. Now we've been able to, we've driven it down. Now you're looking at 16% to about 22-23%. You can say the MPP, because of what we know of you, the kind of mantle and the sort of personnel you have at your disposal, we're expecting you to drive it further to say a single digit. But now it is 16% to 22-23%. You can do better. Because we expect more from you, we understand. But you cannot compare us to NDC, which took us to 32-35%. You cannot. But you cannot equally compare MPP to the NDC when it comes to the management of the currency, the cedi. It is not possible. Every indicator shows that in that regard, MPP is performing far better. And we all know it. Now we can look at...
But the past 3 months, the cedi has gone haywire. It's 5.8 now, is it not?
It's 6.
No, hold
6.1.
on. We can use the interbank rates. That's a fair assessment. That's a fact. No, that is the standard.
Where did NDC take the cedi from?
They've been kicked out of government. So let's deal with what is in front of us.
Saying that you can talk to MPP and say, you know what, based on what we know of you, we expect you to do some things. And I think we've been doing that. The things that confront
So is the criticism fair? If the former president says that you are not doing well,
President Mahama has no locus.
Why is
why does he not qualified to question
why
MPP
not? He's a Ghanaian.
In terms of economic management?
He's a Ghanaian.
Because he had the most disastrous term in our history as a president.
It still does not take away his right to criticize you.
We saw the growth of the economy at 3.4% when President Mahama was hesitant.
That's not true.
That's how the growth of the economy was.
That's right.
That's what we saw. MPP grew the economy consistently between 7.5 to 8% until COVID brought a raised ugly head. But even in the COVID period, where practically all major economies are literally on their knees. We saw UK economy running into recession. US economy was struggling. Canada, Germany, all the major economies. Ghana was among the 30 countries in the world, only 30 countries in the world that saw some growth. Ghana is among that number. So who is talking about the running of the economy? Now we are also even anticipating that the economy is going to grow better, and within the next couple of months to the next year, we'll see Ghana possibly being among the first 5 countries with the best growth in the economy. And because of the things that we are putting in place, a lot of things are happening. I mean, we've seen a country where when we came in, taxes that will heap on the people. And the government coming in and reducing taxes, some of them scrapping them. The cumulative effect of even increasing some taxes here and reducing some taxes here meant that the NPP government has literally reduced taxes by 9% since we came in. And that is what it is.
But taxes are really high. Everybody's complaining about taxes.
Here's
the thing. We have a situation where you talk about reduction of taxes, but for instance, last week I bought something, right? The total price was about 112 Ghana cedis or so. The VAT on it was 36 Ghana cedis. That's extremely high.
I think I can bear with you, but we equally need to understand that government needs to develop the country.
Yeah, so why do you use taxes then?
That we are clamoring for, and all the things that we seek for, the roads that we've been asking for, the schools that we've been asking for, all the things that we have been asking for. We are equally looking at the fact that we do not want government to be too much interested in borrowing. So it means that we need to up our game in terms of domestic revenue.
Excessively.
We've borrowed.
Excessively.
That's not excessive compared to what the country is and where our GDP has got into now. I'm not sure that we are distressed in terms of our debts. We are not that distressed country. We can get there, but we are not there. And you see that there's a strategy, and all these things, some of the things that we are seeing in terms of even our debt profiling has happened because of COVID. Because remember that as a country, Greater Accra literally generates about 88% of our revenue.
Okay.
The next region that gives about 6% is Eastern region, and Ashanti region is the next, and the others share the remaining. So it tells you that any shock in Greater Accra literally affects everything. So when there's a lockdown in Ghana, and there's one thing about the economy, when there's a total lockdown, when there's restrictions, when certain businesses are compelled to shut down, it means that really raising revenue will become a difficulty. But government is being compelled to spend more, because things that we otherwise wouldn't have spent on the likes of giving electricity support the people to cushion the people, water to cushion the people, providing meals for the people, increasing the sort of incentive we give to the health workers, preventing them from paying taxes, and other things that we did to support the economy during the COVID time.
But you did that with external support.
Loans that we have to give.
Some of them were grants, not loans.
I'm talking about loans that we have to give to the ordinary Ghanaian through MBSSI. It tells you that government needed to do things to support the economy. That is why the economy is now on the path of growth.
But hold on, now, Richard, hold on. I want us to just break this down. We had a 3-week lockdown. True of us.
That's true.
You are still telling me we are in September of 2021. We had the lockdown when? March, April of last year. We are still reeling from the effects of that 3-week lockdown.
If anybody who is in the hotelier business, of travel and tourism business, and companies who are running other hospitality, who are into hospitality mainly, and other section of the economy, who are compared to still shut down, will tell you that the impact of COVID is still on them. Because revenues from those areas will not even come. People were pushed to become unemployed as a result of COVID. So there are a lot of things that are still ongoing, because as you speak, nightclubs are not supposed to be operating, right?
Allegedly.
Some beaches and certain things are not supposed to be operating. People's business you are talking about here. Drivers were pushed to pick a minimum number of people. Intercity STC went through a lot of challenges because The chunk of their revenue, for instance, comes from their roots beyond the shores of this country, Lome, Nigeria, and all those areas. But because of the boundary shutdown, the people at the border, you've been hearing them complain about the fact that the continuous closure of the border is affecting their lives and their businesses. And it's true. So all those things are things that are still impacting on the economy. But you see, because of the strategies that we put in place, that is why we are seeing the kind of growth that we are seeing. Because ordinary, in terms of job creation, NDC cannot compare itself to MPP.
I'll get to job creation. Don't jump ahead of don't jump the gun. I'll get to job creation. It's the second part of this.
Of course. So there's no area that President Mahama, from all the indicators that we can talk about, that former President Mahama can compare the NDC performance to the MPP performance. Providing support to the ordinary people, providing moment of respite for the people, dealing with issues of electricity and power challenges, dealing with the roads infrastructure that we have. You cannot. The kilometer of roads that have been done by this government have not been done by any government in our history. And the facts are there, and the facts speak for itself. In terms of health facilities, by the closure of this government's tenure, and obviously we know that this government will hand this over to the next MPP government because of the kind of work that we will do and we will do for the people of this country. They were entrusted with another attempt to go ahead and build a country. You look at the kind of things that have been done. Health, it has not been done anywhere. There's no government in the history in any part of the world that says that, you know what, within this period, my revenues are being challenged, but I'm still going to pay all my salaries as I'm supposed to do. I'm still making sure that nursing training allowance are being paid, teacher training allowance are being paid. We have NACO people who are being given a temporary moment of this into use as a transit to a mainstream employment.
That you are struggling to pay.
We have been paid.
They are not being paid.
Then we have over 66,000 people employed at the Forestry Commission alone in terms of tree planting and other things. Health workers that were employed close to 98,000 between the medical doctors, nurses, and other allied health staff, laboratory technicians, pharmacy technicians, and pharmacists and scientists, and all those people. All these people have been employed. It tells go to planting for food and jobs, the number of people who have been employed. We are seeing proper plan, a strategy in place to deal with the unemployment situation head on, where factories are being built across the length and breadth of the country. This week alone, how many factories, last week, how many factories did the president inaugurate? 2.
No, I think 4.
Do you understand that? So you see, it gives you an indication that there's a plan and there's a strategy in place. As we speak now, we are looking in excess of 100 factories that have been built and they are operating with people who are actually being employed in excess of 150,000 people. Now we are looking at, of course, but the numbers are there. Of course,
150,000 new jobs.
Of course,
or existing.
I'm talking about the factories that have been that are being inaugurated. The people who are being employed in these factories. And the thing is that, and
these numbers are because, for instance, the one that was opened, the latest one he opened, the 10 million Ghana cedi one for cassava. Also over the weekend in Adon Kwanta, sorry. It's employing just 50 people.
But it's direct job.
Yes.
But we are looking at direct and indirect jobs.
I understand.
But in terms of the 50,000, I'm trying to direct jobs. And I'm saying that is just a classical area where the people think that they need just this number of people to deal with the situation because of the number of this. But there are others that are employing 2,000, 1,500, 3,000.
In the value chain of it.
No, in terms of people within the establishment, where they are running 24/7. So it tells you that there's a strategy in place. We go to my hometown, Brekum. There's a tomato factory. Up north, rice processing plant. You are going here. You are seeing them being done across the length and breadth of the country.
So the economy is safe.
Of course, it's in safe hands.
No
there are a lot more that
needs to be done.
We continue to do that. But you see, I was going to go to another area.
You can hold on for me. Don't go anywhere. Honorable Mutala, so you've heard Mr. Santiago, who seems to disagree with the scathing assessment that that the former president has given of the economy, spoken about sloganeering. And he paints a rather bright picture of what the government has been able to do to keep the country afloat amidst the COVID. Obviously, your candidate former president, I must say, disagrees. He said COVID has become basically the government's biggest excuse for its mismanagement. You do admit progress has been made, huh?
First and foremost, let me remind him that at the time when beaches and restaurants were asked to close, Asante Biddio to his wife. So, please. When he was talking,
please to you too.
Can I make my point? We are talking about businesses that were asked to close.
So address businesses, but don't accept personalities.
I would
on it.
address personalities because
I would ask you
hold
to
on.
prove
Yes,
ownership of these things.
I'll prove.
That who owns what?
Hold on, please. I don't like this. You listen to him. He made Can I finish?
Hold on.
Let me finish. We are talking about those who are asking us to do something.
Yes.
They themselves must be seen demonstrating what they are asking us to do.
Yes.
The president had protocols that were supposed to be respected.
Yes.
And he said that businesses, beaches were asked to close.
Yes. And they struggled.
Sandbox was never closed.
I was not
said
there.
Sandbox was never closed.
Were you there?
I said it wasn't closed.
Calm down. Were you there?
No, you can find out.
From who?
Interestingly, I went there. Interestingly.
So you broke COVID. You are admitting on national TV you broke COVID protocols.
I went there to see.
Oh.
I went there and people go to Sandbox
to go and observe that it was open.
As I talk to you, get your reporters to go there. Sandbox is operating because it is owned by Asante Biddio to his wife. It is operating. Sandbox is operating.
Richard,
I don't like
Richard,
it.
It's okay.
You
Don't
listen
address
to him. When you do this, then you don't want me to be engaging. You don't want to engage me on this program.
No, I'm
I am
engaging
saying
you.
that get your reporters. Let them go and shame me whether Sandbox is operating or not.
I will not do that. I am saying that
please. I am saying
to confirm what you're saying.
What other proof do you want me to give them to tell you that it's a fact? And what you need to do, have your reporters, have your journalists, let them verify and come on this program and shame me if I'm lying. Sandbox has been operating. It's been operating consistently. It has never stopped. Sandbox has never stopped. So I'm just giving him information that when you talked about beaches and restaurants being closed,
there was one that
Sandbox was never closed. And I have been hammering on this point every single day. By his logic, they have never responded to me saying that Sandbox is operating.
Richard, don't worry. Richard, don't worry.
Richard, it's okay. It's Asante Biddio choose one. I'm saying that you tell us that. Hold on, let me finish. I don't like this. Elevate what?
Richard, it's okay.
You see, when they are hit with the truth, when you have those who govern, give a directive, everybody must do this. You should be saying, demonstrating same directive. It is not about the person. It is about laws are meant to be obeyed by all. If you come out, the management of this station comes out to say that no one should wear white shirt to this workplace because that is a decision taken by management. And then the next day you find the leadership, the management, the deputy manager wearing white shirt. Will you tolerate that? That is the point I'm just making. It was just an information.
Richard, don't respond. Just right.
I mean, at time came, they listed a bunch of hotels that he's bought.
We don't have too much time.
And the hotel owners have to come and say,
I don't want to
people who go about and lie about people for no apparent reason.
Richard, it's okay.
First and foremost,
okay. You go.
I have never mentioned any hotel owned by anybody.
Go on.
I have never. Again, I have listened to the most slippery analysis made on several platforms. I have never witnessed the kind of slippery comments my brother made here.
On what?
With absolute falsehood. He said, and he said it proudly, that the road constructions of this government cannot be compared with any government in our history. He said that.
Of course.
Seriously.
Go on.
And I thought you would have pointed out to him.
Go on.
That is a lie. A bare fact lie. Even on Kuruma. In any case, tell me, what is the longest road in this country than from Kintampo to Paga, which included Tamale Town roads, which included Boku Town road? Tell me which road.
Richard, don't respond.
Tell me which road. Someone sits there and says, please. You made a you see, I think that if you want to elevate this, he must be put on check. I listened to him.
Yes.
So tell him.
Don't worry. He's calm.
Tell him to. No,
Richard.
He has been repeatedly interjecting.
Please go
I
on.
listened to him.
Please go on.
So I'm saying that it is a lie. It is an absolute lie to say that road construction under this government cannot be matched with any government. That's not true. In fact, the road construction of President Mahama is several ways more than the roads you have done. The number of kilometers are there. Budget statements are brought. Executions of roads are stated. And that is why I ask a simple question. Tell me the road that is longer, further than from Kintampo to Paga, which included Tamale Town roads, which included Boku Town, Bolga Town roads. Then you sit here and make that
Am I supposed to give you that?
No, Richard.
I should tell him.
Right.
Which road?
You're right.
So that is absolutely not true. The other thing he said that when it comes to the economy, the NDC is not a match. I think that let's look at the statistics very clearly. The people of this country are not interested in economic, jargons that we chain out there. The purpose of any policy formulated to be implemented by any government is to do nothing except to improve the living conditions of the people. Now, he said that in the management of the currency, they have managed the Ghanaian currency more than what the NDC did. I think that's another fact lie. Under the NDC, you inherited $1 to cedi at what rate? 3.1.
That's not true.
Please,
Richard, just write it.
How much was it?
President Mills took the cedi 1 to 1.
Oh, he's not talking
Go
about
on.
president. You see,
Go on, Richard.
You see, another
What is the
wobbling
NDC?
economic
Richard,
analysis.
it's okay.
When we had a redenomination,
I want us to make progress.
when we have redenomination, what logic is this? That he took the cedi 1 to 1. We redenominated our currency.
But that's the basis you mentioned your claim.
Please. I'm saying that
Go
after
on.
the redenomination.
But that's it.
Hold
Richard,
on, please.
just wait for him.
Today, you see, he doesn't even
You
have...
don't even have the facts. These are economic matters.
Richard,
This is finance
Richard,
matters.
it's okay. Richard, it's okay. Let him go.
But it's not true that they took over from President Kufuor when the cedi to the dollar was 1 to 3.
It's okay.
It's not true.
Let him make progress.
You see.
Leave
That's
that
okay,
to
you
me.
go.
Leave
You
that
go.
to me.
I'm coming.
You go ahead.
I'm coming.
Go ahead.
I'm a master in doing this. If you don't know,
No.
But if you don't respect
But
me,
it's for
and
our
respect-
audience.
But he
It's
should
not for you.
respect the audience. He's disrespecting
Leave that
the
to
audience
me.
and listen to him. So he should listen to
It's
me.
okay. He will listen to
I
you.
am saying, but he should. I have been
on.
complaining. Listen to me. I listen to you.
Go on.
I am saying that it is absolutely not true. How much was a gallon of petrol? Let's do the ordinary man economics. How much was a gallon of petrol? At the time when you were saying that the NDC was not managing the economy very well, how much was a bag of cement? A bag of cement is more than 50 Ghana cedis today. A gallon of petrol, tell the people of this country, how much is it? How much was a ball of kenke? How much is a ball of kenke today? As a matter of fact, in Tamale, we have never, throughout my young life, bought a bag of rice at bag of maize at 200 Ghana cedis. Today, a bag of maize is sold in Tamale 300 Ghana cedis or more. Then you sit here to insult the people of this country by telling them that you have managed the economy better. I am saying that the ordinary man walking on the street is not interested in economic jargons you chain out there. They are interested in their living conditions. Forget of interest rate. Interest rate is nothing if it doesn't translate in the living conditions of the people. The people of this country are virtually living in a hell. How much was a tuber of yam? How much is it today? You had a minister for agri who came and said that, oh, plantain is so cheap. Your sister station went to Malata. It was an embarrassing day for the minister. How much is $1 today? How much was petrol? How much is a bag of cement? Ordinary people can no longer put up their own homes because you can't buy a bag of cement. And in fact, the Cement Producers Association have indicated that if government doesn't reduce the taxes, a bag of cement will be sold at 60 Ghana cedis. Official statement. Then you sit here, then you tell us that the economy is doing well. President Mahama borrowed less than 50 billion. There are tangible projects to show. There are tangible projects to show. You have borrowed close to 200 billion. Nothing to show. In this country, when President Mahama, you claim that he could not... over 140 billion.
Richard, just right.
Over 140 billion has been borrowed. There is nothing to show. In this country, when the NDC, the IMF and others said that debt to GDP was about 60%, you made a whole lot of fuss with it. Today, debt to GDP is about 80% or more. Today, as a matter of fact, the IMF themselves in their report said 79.something%. And there have been several things you are hiding from the people of this country. Yet you turn around and then you tell us that you have managed the economy so well. The people of this country are not interested in the kind of politicking you and I sit here and do and tell them that debt to interest rate is this, inflation rate is this. They are interested in the translation of those jargons, economic jargons we parade. The so-called finance jargons we parade, they are interested in seeing a reflection of those things in their living conditions. And there is nothing to show about this. In terms of hospitals, look, we can take sector by sector. Let's take hospitals. How many hospitals have you built? Not one. Not which one?
But
hold on.
hold on. But I'm asking a question. When it comes to those things, you started a few. They finished those ones. They've started projects. Somebody else might finish them.
They finished which one? Have you seen
But
the
all the
military
projects
hospital?
that you-
Hold on. Have you seen the military hospital in
Afari?
Have you seen?
Yes, I have.
Have you seen the
It's near
videos?
completion.
Have you seen the?
I didn't see videos. I've seen it with my
Hold on. I
eyes.
say, have you seen the videos? That cylinders are left to rot, and you tell me they have finished.
No, that is not true.
Hold on. I'm saying that. Have you seen the videos?
And I'm telling you, I don't need the videos. I've seen it physically.
Even that they have finished.
No, that the cylinders that are outside are supposed to be outside.
Hold on. I'm saying that. What about the other rows? Grass everywhere. Have you seen that?
I have been there, yes.
So they have even grass. Get people to weed it. Have they done that?
It's a construction site. When it's done,
Hold
they'll
on.
clean
The
it up.
construction is not going. The construction
Last I
is
was
not
there,
going.
it is going on.
When was the last time you went there?
I've been there the past month.
The past month.
Yes.
I am saying that the construction, so even with the construction with grass everywhere, in any case, this is their 5th year. The project was virtually completed. This is their 5th year. University of Ghana Hospital, it had to take the people of this country to demand that government goes to commission that. To the extent that the minister went there and lied to the people of this country. And I've asked him, tell me one single hospital you have built in 5 years. Yet you have borrowed over 140 billion. One single hospital. Can you count the number of hospitals NDC built? Can you count the number of regional hospitals and district hospitals the NDC built? Take the 2018 financial statement. This government shamefully boasted, if you take, that they put up about 15 cheap compounds. Take the financial statement. In Nantong, as the MP, within 4 years, I put up 5 cheap compounds. The entire government boasted in a financial statement presented in Parliament that they put up about 15 cheap compounds.
That's not true.
I have just
Hold
told
on.
you the
Let
document.
him go on.
That is a mediocre of government. Let's come to schools. The E-blocks, some of them are rotten. E-blocks that were built for the purposes of being used by schools in this country, they have refused to complete them. They have refused to do that. Apart from E-blocks, let's look at even security. We are in a terrible state as a country because terror groups have been financed and trained by the NPP.
Which terror groups?
When they talked about Delta Force and invisible forces, you had their general secretary who said they were not going to disband them. Their general secretary made a public statement that they were not going to disband them. Can I finish, please? You had a security officer.
Why are you calling them terror groups?
But they are. Look at the definition of a terror. They are terror groups. As a matter of fact,
they're the ones impacting the
the
insecurity in the country now?
Of course.
How so?
When you train people how to wield guns, when they are not security officers, when you train people how to hold arms, there was a discovery by Manasseh in a documentary that he did.
Yeah.
And that, hold on, when you train people who are not security men, a private security of a political party, how to use guns, and those people are unemployed, what do you expect them to do?
But where is that's a bit of a stretch.
What stretch? In this
Saying
country?
that somebody has been trained and because we have an increase in crime.
Why?
Basically, you are linking it to them and calling them terror groups.
Hold on. In this country,
yes,
you had the same terror group who went and who beat a regional security appointee to pulp. Mm-hmm. Those people were arraigned before court. They went there and virtually lynched the judge, but for the intervention of the security. Mm-hmm. On the day that incident happened in a court of competent jurisdiction, their leader granted interviews on radio stations in Kumasi. A president faintly wanted to see that they were going to investigate. They never arrested the person who indeed granted interview and said he was the leader. They went to court and they said nolle prosequi, which by the way doesn't mean acquittal and discharge. As we see today, nobody knows what happens. 2, you have someone who claimed he was selling mobile phones at Circle. Who claimed that he was selling mobile phones at Circle. That person found his way into national security. They unleashed terror. Hold on. Good prosecution.
You don't understand the security architecture of national security in the world.
I just want to.
If anybody at all can be a member of national security.
Richard, just hold on.
You don't need people who have gone to.
Richard, leave the questions to me.
You know, let me tell Richard, I'm smarter than you. Stop using those words.
Please.
It's okay, go
No,
on.
you can't be. It's not possible.
Far smarter than you.
It's not possible.
Anybody who listens to me and listens to you will know that you don't have the
Let's not.
He's been repeated. Hold on.
Is that an insult? That means
I think that you are not being fair as a host.
The insults
I just want.
Please, you are not being fair as the host of this program. Please,
I am doing the best I can.
You are not being fair. You are not being fair. If you didn't want me, I wouldn't have been here. You asked him, he spoke, you listened to him. You kept on interjecting, even when he was interjecting, and I repeatedly drew your attention. He's unnecessarily interjecting.
And I'm telling you to stop.
Hold on. And he's not stopping.
And
are you losing control of hosting the program?
No.
But that is precisely what is happening.
That
He's
is what
been
is happening.
repeatedly interjecting. Can I make
focused?
my point? Please, I am focused.
Yes,
if you don't interject, if you don't allow him to interject, then he says that initially he said that you don't understand this. This one is, what do you understand better than me?
Yes, I'm saying let us not lose control of ourselves. Just dwell on me.
I just want him to know
dwell on me.
that he is not my teacher. He's not fit to be my teacher.
Let's not dwell on him.
But the point
Let's
is that allow me to make my points and tell him that I listened to him when he was making his point. So allow me to make my points. In any case, now when you begin telling us that you have managed the economy so well, I have just simply told you the people of this country are not interested in what the NDC or the MPP says on TV, on radio. They are interested in seeing whether there has been an improvement in their living conditions. They want to know how much was a bag of cement and how much is the bag of cement today? How much was a gallon of petrol? How much is a gallon of petrol today? How much was a ball of kenke? How much is a ball of kenke today? Everything has escalated. That has been the concern of the people of this country. And now I said, let's look at them sector by sector. In terms of health, what single structure have you put up?
Yeah, you've asked those questions.
So they haven't. In terms of education, what have you done? The NDC put up structures. The reason why we were engaged in shifting cultivation system of education, that is the shift system, was by government's own official statement that inadequate facilities that were supposed to be provided. You had facilities that have been abandoned. You have facilities that you are no longer going on to execute. Why didn't you think you needed to finish those facilities so that you could avoid the shifting system that we had? You can.
Some of the educational facilities that you talk about, like the E-blocks, when the policy came into play, was there a plan to see to its completion, basically? Because when you say they have been abandoned, or
you're asking me, was there a plan by who? By the NDC government or by this?
It was part of a project, was it not?
So you're asking whether there was a plan for the NDC?
Yes.
What a preposterous question. On what basis will you award a contract if not the contract to be executed?
So where is the abandonment coming from?
So I'm saying that there are several of them that have been abandoned. Several. As a matter of fact, there is one that is even being used by this operation, those who are doing the Galamsey. There are several. So you're asking me why he should be answering the question. He should be telling the people of this country why they have abandoned those projects.
The reasons why I'm asking those is if you decide to put up a school, right? Yeah. The location matters. Who goes to teach in the school matters. How admissions are done matters. So if you tell me, okay, I've cited a school in where I live, for instance, and half the population lives maybe 80 kilometers away and have to walk to that school, and they still have a school. Of course, they're not going to come. So that school suddenly does not become viable.
Has government
so I'm asking that the entire E-block project, no, I'm not asking, the entire E-block project that you talk about, was it thought through to the end? That has been one of the criticisms of that project.
That is why I say it's a very preposterous question. You tell me that it wasn't thought through?
I'm asking you.
That question should not even arise.
Why?
There was a consistent and comprehensive thinking through in having the projects executed. As a matter of fact, in communities where you find the projects put and people say that there are distances, in certain schools, you look at the communities that are going to use it, though you do it in the middle. Now, let me ask you a simple question. Between having those projects available and they not being there at all, as a matter of fact, as part of the program, they even supposed to provide buses to convey students where you had distant communities. Some communities are closer, some communities are not closer to where some of them are sited. That you provide buses to convey the students to school. Now, when you ask the question whether it was thought through, this government has not said that their inability to complete them is because they were not thought through. As a matter of fact, the one that is occupied, the operation, whatever, the Galamsey, is in the same community, and the community people are complaining. Government should be explaining to the people of this country why they have abandoned those projects. Government should. And again, let's come to the issue of security. For me, security is sine qua non to everything. Whatever you achieve as a state, when you don't take your security at hand, you have a problem.
You have 3 minutes.
I'm saying that security decay, absolute security decay in this country. Absolute. Nobody is suggesting under any circumstance that we haven't had security problems in previous administration. We have had. But this has reached its crescendo. Go and check the CDD report on corruption in this country. Go and check the Afro Barometer on corruption. The corruption is deepening in this country. Now, the very reasons for which President Nana Addo was given the mandate, he appeared to be someone who was incorruptible. And in 2016 said he wasn't going to run a family and friends government. Nobody forced him to make that statement in Kumasi. I think your guesses are as good as mine as to whether he ran a family and friends government or not. At the time when they accused President Mahama that he was running a family and friends government, he had only one family member who served in the capacity as a deputy minister, a lawyer of 18 years practice, who was very capable to be made a minister. He never did that. So I'm saying that we can sit here and brandish figures as to interest rate, inflation. That is not the interest of the people of this country. Okay. The interest of the people of this country is to see whether there has been an improvement of their living conditions or not. And I can tell you, it's a disaster of a government.
Thank you.
And
Franklin,
we'll come to the issues of jobs. We'll come to that.
Yes, we'll get to unemployment from 11 p.m. Franklin Kujo, I'm sure you've listened to both sides. And Imani does its own evaluations of the economy. Listening to the criticism that have come from former President Mahama this week. And gentlemen, please, your microphones are live. Gentlemen, your microphones are live. Franklin, the responses from the camp of the sitting president and the accusations from the former president on his thank you tour.
Well, first of all, I think it is the former president's right to criticize, and I suspect that it is also the sitting president's right to respond. But in between these two extremes are the people who are living the life or living the economy. And I think their views actually matter quite a whole lot. I have seen instances where in a comment I post on Facebook, I see the angst, the anger in the responses people give. Yes, some may be political, but I've also taken a keen look at the commentators. And there's an ever-growing class of people who are quite despondent, who are not entirely happy. Much as we can pin down a lot of that, maybe a significant part of that to the impact of COVID, let's also agree that COVID has also brought in its wake a lot of opportunities. Opportunities that my friends in government themselves have highlighted, that by their good management of the economy, that's the reason why they're receiving a lot of largesse from the IMF, from the World Bank, just name them, so many. Ghana has been showered with a lot of money as well. So somehow, that conversation about the management of the economy and who is better at it, if we're dealing directly with the macro numbers, which typically is the traditional method of assessing both economies, then clearly things are pointing to the north, which obviously shows that the current government seems to have had managed the economy in some better stead than the previous administration. But when you put that aside and you juxtapose that with the things that have occurred and the things that people are complaining about, not just as a moniker on my Facebook wall, but even most of the things that are said on your radio station, City FM. And even when you have gathered together with your co-host, Godfred, on your morning shows, the things you lament about are synonymous with most of the things people complain about. So I think it would be important for the sitting government to also pay attention to the impact most of these otherwise highly, regarded interventions that they are making are having on the people. So be it healthcare, of course, be it education, which has some challenges, be it even road networks, which has also had some challenges. I think it's important that the way they respond matters a lot. Look, unemployment was said to be one of the significant reasons why the previous administration was kicked out of power. But the current administration mockingly makes references to the absence of Unemployed Graduates Association. Immediately they came to power, after they've come to power and done what they think they've done to stop that. But when you see the scenes that we were witnessed when the Youth Employment Agency had a job fair with people trooping, and it was almost quite chaotic. It was like people living in Afghanistan, really, trying to clamor for planes, getting out of Afghanistan. So for me, those things are the life or the results of how well or otherwise you have performed in an economy. So I will not be dwelling too much on the numbers, but I think it's important that, yes, some of the building blocks are being put in place by this administration, and it has to be accorded some respect. But I suspect that may not be happening that fast enough in order to, as it were, reduce some of the hardship that people generally face. And I don't think all of it can be pinned down to the former president right now, because clearly speaking, there's been 5 years and counting since the former president left power. So I think it's important not to be going back to maybe talk about his record. Of course, when he brings a debate, we should take it to him. But I think it's also good to look forward and say that, look, there are a few things that ought to be looked into. And it's important that if the economy were obviously as solid as it is, 3 weeks of lockdown may not necessarily have taken us into doldrums, for which we've received far more than many countries have received as a result of the COVID blessings. It's important to also ask what the COVID funds that had come in, essentially how they've been handled and managed. We still don't know. And I think it's important that those questions are also answered. At least when you're able to put all of those together and people have an understanding that everything that has been done as a result of the largesse is inuring to their benefits, then they will definitely be your ambassadors. So it's important to also make a point about the poverty levels that are multidimensionally becoming quite challenging. So while there may be some significant growth or some opportunities where some people are making it, it is also clear that somehow the inequality is also becoming quite wide. And I think we need to fix those things. So a good number of the reasons for which some of the people complain has to do with some of the flagship projects, which I suspect needs a lot of answers right now. We need to still hear from the One Village, One Dam Secretariat. We need to hear from the 1 million for each constituency. And indeed, if these things were to make any impact, it would have been based on the growth polls or growth profile of the various districts. But as you see, most of our districts have not been, the productivity has not been enhanced. Because as it were, everything is organized from Accra. And I don't think that is the way to grow a country. There's significant room to do a lot more for the people of the country, of the Ghana. And it has to do with realizing the potential in each district and giving them some fair amount of representation in terms of fiscal decentralization. And as well as just giving hope, really.
All right.
And I think it's something we should be all concerned about.
Okay, thank you very much, Franklin. Let me just take a couple of messages. Senna from Las says, hello, Godfred. It's true that Sandbox operated through the peak of the COVID at the initial stages. I'm a boat driver and I dropped off a lot of my riders there. Tommy from Amejame says, ask Mr. Santiago when was the last time allowances were paid. It is funny with what he is saying. Bruce from Tishi says, okay. Let me see. Togbu Dobu in Kumasi says, last year, when people said the city was doing well because of the COVID-19 and reduction in importation, the NPP said no. Now the dollar is on a 100-meter race. Can this still see the current performance of the cities due to economic management? More coming through. Babamu from Tamale Central says, Godfred, nobody's going to die for JM to be president. Ghanaians have moved beyond the era of booga politics. Whether Oxford or Cambridge dictionary, do or die in common sense tells me to achieve political power, at all costs. In any case, our backyard is on fire and we should be mindful what we say. This is coming from Abdul Razak from Boko. Akojo from Chakwa. This is all we saw. We also what happened during the election and the Supreme Court judgment. All we need is government intervention. 1 gallon of petrol is 29 cedis plus. 1 small ball of kenke is 2 cedis. The hardship is too much and the government must work to reduce it. Elvis from Sakumono also sends in a message. Godfred says, ask Honorable Muntala, does the former president know elections are won at the polling station? Is the former president asking us to go back to school to learn English? I don't think that is what he said. Abraham from Tema says, it is clear that if the NDC wins the next elections, issues are going to be worse. It's really sad. John from Accra says, government has the duty to work towards the reduction of cement and other building materials that have gone up, rather than holding press conferences on every statement made by the opposition. So these are some of the messages that have come through. Keep sharing. Keep sending the messages in via our WhatsApp number.
If I can just say something.
I'm just taking a quick break.
Yes.
When I return, don't worry. I'll take a quick break.
It was my time. So
when we return,
we
will continue. The big issue returns. When we come back, we'll enter. Hold on, gentlemen. When we return, we'll enter the employment conversation based on what we saw a few days ago at the Youth Employment Agency job fair. It's not, basically we're just trying to look at the larger picture of the employment situation in Ghana. I guess we've already touched on pieces of that during the first part of the conversation, but we'll delve into that. I'll have some additions to the panel from the University of Ghana. Stay tuned.
I want to clean, and clean. I just use my Yopo to wipe it all clean. No matter how strong that I'll win. Everything is bright when Yopo is in. Yopo, every kind of Yopo, Yopo, any better Yopo, Yopo, every kind of Yopo.
No matter the debt problem, Yopo has got you and your family covered.
This advertisement is FDA approved.
Bonsoir, monsieur. Madame. Et voilà.
Babe, what is this?
This is the escargot. The foie gras. Oui.
Where did she go?
You pa one kasa who say oba say your pay fear eh?
It's been long since you ever felt like this.
Welcome to the best in Ghanaian entertainment on Akwaba Magic. Welcome home to Akwaba Magic on DSTV channel 150. It's your moment. DSTV.
And the feel about be a count of the Bimonti. So you should AD TV and then you say, look at Genesis now. So yeah, AD. So person we collect pictures. Now try the only better dia and then I could HD plus decoder. And now share. But we be a clear and you feel. Wow, I'm talking about crowd. HD logo the bottom. Where you say HD local channels now. And so pictures see clear. And you 5 times better. As the other channels that could be sure. So go to mention one time. Oh, what a pictures. What do AD plus decoder? Oh, multi TV and now natural agent PR. Natural local channels now. Oh, HD plus decoder be a button. You have 2 months free subscription. The years of better.
Star 879 hash.
Numbers from Kubu box you and now the advert 80 channels now with them.
Wow, mommy, I want clear pictures like this for my kids' channel.
Sunday on the Upside Down Show, we have a conversation with celebrated high life artist and TV personality Akosua Ejapong. She speaks on creating music, marriage, and the music industry in Ghana on the Upside Down Show this Sunday at 7 p.m. only on City TV. Upside Down is proudly brought to you by Vodafone Ghana.
Fellow Ghanaians, the passing weeks come with them big stories. And our big newsmakers, they love to talk big.
All this will no more be tolerated in our country. We are not doing family business here. I want Ghana to work.
Sometimes, for our own peace of mind, we tune out.
Feel me well, because I'm serving the national interest. And to every rule, look at the national interest.
But on Fridays, we take a chill. We spill it all. Oh, with designer stray bullets.
Nowadays, if you come to our church premises, our church members, they come pay their tithe, they come pay their offering. If you ask them, they say they are broke.
Hey, 4 or 5 years on, we should fix roads. You are late. You are far behind. Get up and run and catch up with us.
I got to get stories, so I'm telling you. Oh so join me, Caleb Kuda, on City TV on Backpage every Friday at 6:30 p.m. as we face ourselves and terminate boredom and ignorance. Your laughter will be due arise.
Welcome back to the big issue. I hope you're enjoying the conversation between my guests. I'm entering the second part of the conversation, and this is on unemployment. And this has become a significant conversation to have, again, based on, I think, unemployment and employment numbers have been one of the biggest topics for all the governments we've had. I remember one of the criticisms we had of the Mahama administration was the lack of employment numbers. It's the same query we've also made of the MPP government, where the employment numbers, everybody keeps pointing at this number. Even during the vetting of the employment minister, the current one, the exact number of unemployed people we had in the system was a problem. I think you were in Parliament at the time. And then we saw what happened at the Youth Employment Agency job fair, and it has led to bigger questions of looking at the current numbers, even when you look at the numbers in tertiary institutions, TVET and whatnot. When one is to make projections, do we have enough jobs to fill these spots? How do we accommodate? How does the country accommodate all these young people who are in school, who go to school? Is the economy big enough? Is the training good enough? There has been significant conversation about that, and that is what we are going to enter. And we caught up with the CEO of the Youth Employment Agency, Justin Kodia Frimpong, who said that the primary objective of the job fair, which has been criticized for how it turned out, is to better equip job seekers. So we'll listen to this quick report, come in, and then continue the conversation with Honorable Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Richard Asante is still with us. We'll also be joined by Dr. Priscilla Chumisi Barfor, a labor economist from the University of Ghana, as well as Kingsley Lar, who is an economist and a research officer from the Ghana Employers Association.
In Ghana, available data indicates that about 600,000 people out of the total labor force of over 12 million are not employed. Analysts have warned that the figure may go up if interventions are not put in place. Key among all the promises in budget statements by governments over the years has been job creation. In efforts to support this aim, the Youth Employment Agency YEA organized a job fair with the primary objective of providing opportunity for job seekers to go through live interview sessions towards getting employed by the participating companies from the private sector. According to the agency, 3,200 job vacancies are to be filled by the end of the 2-day job fair. But this initiative came with its own problems, as thousands of job seekers gathered at the Accra International Conference Center and struggled their way through the gates to interact with the employers. Some of these persons shared their frustrations with City Business News.
How has the process been? It hasn't been easy, and the information placed out there wasn't detailed. I came here around 7 and I was told I'm supposed to register. With the registration, I've not been able to do it, so we are still in queue since 7 and it's 12:55. I'm still here. Nothing has been done. We are just in queue.
So now what's the way forward? Are you still going to be here till when it's 2 days, or you go and come back? What's your plan now?
Actually, I'll have to stay because I'm the one seeking for the job. So I'll have to stay. If I'm supposed to come tomorrow, I will come tomorrow and then I'll finish up.
I arrived here as early as 8 o'clock. Yes. And when I got here, there were a lot of guys over here. So I even thought I was late before I realized they started arranging their stuffs. Yes.
So what exactly are you looking for? Which particular sector do you want to work in, or company do you want to work for?
Basically, I have not chosen a specific company, but that of the energy sector. Yeah, because I did electrical engineering.
In which school?
Sungan Technical University.
Have you been able to go inside?
No. I struggled to get at the door, but then the glass was broken and we all drove back again. So I said that they asked us to write some names. We've written down the names about twice, but still nothing. We've not heard anything.
A deputy CEO of the Youth Employment Agency, Alhaji Bashiru Ibrahim, however, stated that the attendees exceeded the agency's expectations.
I think that initially we had a target, but the interest has gone beyond what we were anticipating. If you go around and you look at the various companies that are here, we have close to 150 companies that are here, and over 3,500 vacancies so far have been declared. It is our hope that the various people who are here seeking for jobs will meet the requirements of the companies so that they can be employed.
He further assured that his outfit would track the persons who would gain employment to assess their performances at their various workplaces.
The Youth Employment Agency will track every single person and then to ensure that the person who goes through the interview is employed. Let me add that at the end of the day, if you are picked by a company, we still want to monitor your progress. So it's not just about creating an avenue for employers and employees to meet. It is also our responsibility to ensure that we track and follow the various people at wherever they are employed.
Welcome back. So that is what happened this weekend. I'll be joined by Dr. Priscilla Chumisi Barfor, Labour Economist, University of Ghana, Kingsley Lar, Economist and Research Officer, Ghana Employers Association. And I want to begin this conversation from Dr. Priscilla Chumisi Barfor, then I'll talk to Kingsley Lar before I come into Honorable Mutala, Comrade Mutala and Richard in studio. Dr. Chumisi Barfor, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Thank you for making time with us. Looking at, if you observe what happened this week at the Youth Employment Agency job fair, is that a microcosm of the bigger problem we have? How bad is this unemployment situation that we have at the moment?
Thank you once again. So the chaotic scene we witness over the past 2 days is an indication of the level of desperation, especially with young people, in terms of the extent of joblessness that exists in the economy. But indeed, jobs are important, they are critical. If you look at a developing country like ours, jobs are about livelihoods. So people expect to go to school, complete, and find jobs. And when you look at consistently what is going on, you find that the level of joblessness is increasing, unemployment is becoming a problem. Although I may not necessarily be able to say that all the people who appear there are indeed unemployed. It's possible that some people have jobs, but they have hopes of finding better jobs. But the scene we saw is an indication of the problem that is at hand, and for policymakers to take a critical look and find options to address the situation as soon as possible.
For the point you make about we cannot really tell whether all of them are unemployed brings up the notion of those who say, okay, so is it an issue of employability, or it's an issue of just maybe low wages for a start?
Yes, so over time, when you look at our unemployment numbers, it's always been a topical issue, because looking at the scene, if you say that unemployment is 5.6 in the economy, it's unbelievable because the numbers seem to be overwhelming. But consistently, you find that in our context, the challenge really is not about unemployment, but the kinds of things people do and the remuneration they gain out of it. So like I indicated, people are working. Now, some graduates, tertiary university graduates, are being offered 500, 600 on the labor market. And clearly, when you look at it, you see that and the kinds of jobs people are doing, you find that some people are doing jobs that are way below what they have trained to do, because there are no better options available in the economy. So in as much as we are concerned about the levels of unemployment in the economy, I think moving forward, we should also be concerned about the kinds of things people do in the name of employment. That is when you talk about jobs that are offering living wage, jobs that are have decent working characteristics that will enable people lift themselves out of poverty and have a decent livelihood. So it's not more like a straitjacket thing, but a cuts across really, because you find that a lot of people are not in the unemployment statistic, but if they had better options, they will move down from what they are doing. Some people graduate, they cannot find jobs, so they find themselves in the informal market doing other things. But if they found themselves in a more formal economy where they could not just easily set up something for themselves, then they could have been in the unemployment pool. So indeed, unemployment is a problem, but the kinds of jobs, the quality of jobs that people are also doing is a problem, and which ties in directly with the level of low remuneration you indicated earlier.
Now, as a labor economist, again, you spoke about the job pool, and for somebody who will obviously do a lot of research, you need data to be able to make projections and assess the true situation. What exactly is the difficulty with computing employment and unemployment numbers in this country? We've seen 3 successive governments being unable to find a method that everybody will buy into and believe as this is the accurate computation of the employment or unemployment numbers in this country.
So really, the main challenge with the computation is the lack of the data. Data on the labor market is very scanty and it doesn't exist. The best data we rely on in the country over time has been the Ghana Living Standard Survey. And as we speak, the current version of the Ghana Living Standard Survey is 2017. So most of the times you find that we are making projections, and you see that the data that we come out with the figures, you find that they are not in tandem with current trends, because indeed 2017, it has been a while. Although I see that the Labor and Employment Ministry is trying to come out with some other forms of computing, coming out with information on the labor market. We need to, as a country, invest in a labor market information system where we are able to churn out data. If for nothing at all, annually, we should be able to come out with information on the performance of the labor market to get timely and accurate information for policy intervention when is required. Because at the moment, sometimes, to be honest, some of the numbers that are churned out, I'm a labor economist, I find myself looking for avenues for where they got the data to give us the numbers they are given, because the consistent data that we rely on has been the Ghana Living Standard Survey, which devotes a section to the labor market on economic activities to capture it. And then there is also the Labor Force Survey. The Labor Force Survey, the current version is a 2015. So you see, the data on the labor market is quite patchy, but it so happens that these days, and critically so, unemployment has become a topical issue. And for that matter, I believe that as a country going forward, we need to invest in collecting timely and accurate data. There are a whole lot of avenues that we can use to do that. And I believe that we have to do that to be able to nip this problem once and for all, because sometimes you find that ministers will come and tell us they've generated a number of jobs. The issue is how do we, get numbers to verify? What kinds of jobs? Are these full-time jobs? Are these casual jobs? What are those jobs that are being churned out? But it ends up being a matter of speculation and not based on any scientific evidence, really.
I will get back to you on the second part of this. Let me just talk to Kingsley Lar with the Ghana Employers Association. Mr. Lar, morning. Mr. Lar, can you hear me, sir? Unmute your microphone.
Good morning. Good morning to your listeners, viewers.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on the big issue. I guess I will begin from where Dr. Chumesi Boafo ended. From the Ghana Employers Association perspective, do you know exactly what the unemployment rate is in this country? What is the size we are looking at?
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners and viewers. To be honest with you, I think the issue of lack of data on the labor market is of high concern to employers in the country. Like Dr. Chumasi rightly indicated, there is no, reliable data system in the country to actually be able to determine exactly the numbers of unemployment in the system. So currently, there's the data that we not dwell on only help us to make projections, but not actually to dwell on accurate data or numbers.
Again, is this a matter of, from the employer's side, is this a matter of the skills available, or it's simply a matter of we don't have enough jobs available? Because when you listen to a lot of the prospective applicants who showed up, most of them were concerned about the skill sets. Some of the employers also complained about the skill sets. Most of the applicants also complained about the potential earnings they would make from certain jobs, and that makes them disinterested in even applying for those jobs, even though they don't have jobs, so to say.
Okay, thank you. I think I would want to highlight that whilst we pay attention to the supply side of the equation by looking at the number of young graduates who are without jobs and are churned out into the labor market, we should also pay critical attention to the demand side as well. From the business perspective, it is the desire of every businessman or employer to be able to attain all the needed resources to expand its operations, make profit, and contribute to economic development in several ways, including job and employment creation. But the question is the business environment conducive enough to enable employers expand and improve upon their job creation potentials? You can look at the issues of high lending rate, although over the past 2 years, it has taken a declining path. When you compare to the average rate on the African continent, that of Ghana is still on the higher side. If you look at issues of high cost of production, look at issues of exchange rate issue, related matters, illicit trading activities, among others. These are some of the conditions that cripple the ability of employers to make headway in their fight in mitigating youth unemployment challenges in the country. And also, of course, if you turn the page to the other soft skills, you ask yourself whether or not employers are having the requisite skill sets they require to produce efficiently. The fact of the matter is that some employers find it difficult to secure competent employees for available jobs and have had to sometimes, resort to skilled workers from neighboring, countries like Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and even Burkina Faso, just to fill vacancies in the oil and gas and sometimes construction sectors. Surprisingly, professionals like carpenters, welders, masons, tilers, talk of solar panel installers, bricklayers, among others, sometimes migrate from other African countries to take up contract assignments in Ghana. And I think these are very worrying. And there are instances that some of our member organizations have actually bemoaned that recruiting engineers locally is a challenging matter because many of these engineers or engineering graduates are mostly familiar with the literature, with little or no practical knowledge on how to fix real-time problems. So I think these are some of the key issues that have exacerbated the unemployment situation in the country.
Looking also at the matter of temporary jobs and permanent jobs that exist in the system, what exactly are you looking at? Are we in a situation where we are having more people in temporary jobs or more people in permanent jobs?
You see, because of the few challenges I highlighted earlier, when it comes to high lending rates, high cost of production, exchange rates, and illicit trading activities related matters, it makes it difficult for employers to actually embark on, let's say, high-time sort of employment or job creation objectives. And so most of them are compelled to sometimes go in for short-term or contract-based sort of engagement because bringing them on board in itself actually increases their overhead cost, and then it makes it difficult for them to thrive and even sustain themselves. So it makes it a challenging matter at a point. But, there's little most employers can do in this regard.
Quite interesting. And then from the graduate side, looking at the projections, I've seen some interesting numbers. Are you concerned about the growing pool, looking at the current admission rates from pre-tertiary, tertiary, and vocational school level?
Certainly, yes. I believe that is a challenging matter because it's not just they coming out and not finding jobs, but I think in the long-term perspective, it threatens the safety and security of this nation. At a point when the youth revolt, trust me, it will get to a point that our safety would actually be threatened in this country. And it's a challenging matter. When they go in and undertake or enroll in programs and come out without, sustainable jobs, or they don't fit into the labor market, I think it is something that needs to engage the attention and focus of policymakers. And as an employer, I think it's a challenging matter. And if we don't take care, it will get to a point that we will not be able to, contain the situation in this country.
All right, then. Thank you very much. I will get back to Mr. La and Dr. Priscilla Chumisi for the second phase of this. But on the matter of unemployment, Honorable Comrade Murtala Mohammed, certainly signs for concern. And based on, I'm still standing with the current admission rates that we have in school. The projection over a 10-year period, for instance, for unemployment is scary. But on the other side, we also have a lot of temporary measures being brought in to help alleviate the situation. So you had this job fair for once. The government has also made mention of NAPCO as a mitigating tool for dealing with the job situation, albeit the jobs have been labeled as temporary jobs. How do we deal with this?
First and foremost, NAPCO is a disaster, and I would come to that with facts. But let me commend the
Dr. Priscilla Chumisi and Mr. La.
I think fantastic delivery. I mean, they understand, they don't really understand the subject matter. They communicate convincingly, and I can't be prouder as a citizen of this country that we have people like that. The reason why I say it's a disaster is that...
You mean NAPCO?
Yes. No, NAPCO is a very good thing, but disastrously implemented.
Okay.
And the purpose for which government said they were implementing it was completely misleading. But I want to take you through the facts before. In 2016, if you check the website of the ILO, unemployment rate was about 6.8 in 6.8, 6.7, 6.8 in Ghana. The policies that President Mohammed's administration and the NDC formulated and implemented, you can only drive the benefits a year after or 2 years after. So if you look at 2017, the unemployment rate actually reduced. And it's set, the 2017, it reduced to about 6.5, 6.6. So it certainly could not have been the work of the NPP administration because they were just barely 1 year in office. Because if you understand the job market, if you are formulating policy to implement for the purposes of creating jobs, the year you are formulating it, you certainly cannot begin yielding the benefit. You yield the benefit a year after implementation. But what happened after 2017?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Before you get into that, what exactly was the policy?
The NDC came out with a lot of projects. The projects included one, first and foremost, in the agri sector. And I can trace you back to 2014. There was a surge in the production of local rice in Ghana by 60%. And there was a reduction in the consumption of local rice by 40%. We had what we called the block farming. The block farming was targeted to rural folks who were engaged in agriculture. But for the block farming, a lot of young people were not engaged in agriculture. So once you do that, you would have created jobs for them. There was another policy under the National Youth Employment Program. There were a lot of models that the NDC created. Mind you, the NYEP was a creation of state based on a research that was conducted by the National Security, which said under President Kufuor that if nothing had happened at that time, it could lead to upheaval and violence. So when the NDC came, what we needed to do was to provide a stable and consistent funding for the NYEP. So under Prof. Mills, there was a legal instrument, a legislative instrument, deducting monies from this communication service tax for the purposes of paying the beneficiaries under the NYEP. Temporal as the jobs they were created were, but there were some that were not necessarily temporal, but helped to build the capacity of people who wanted to go into entrepreneurship. Okay, so we increased the communication service tax. And when President Mahama became the president, he also actually increased what President Mills had increased. Prior to that, the NYEP was only getting money from one GET fund, from National Health Insurance and other sources. So it was the state, some of the taxes. So this was a constant flow of resources. And that also helped to create the needed jobs. But let me give you this information. In 2016, those who were on NYEP payroll and were paid were 110,000 people.
Officially?
Officially, 110,000 who were paid on payroll. Under the Zoom Lion sanitation cleaning, you had about 65,000 who were on it. And under the internship, the teaching model, the nursing models, 45,000. They were actually physical beings who were on the payroll, who were working and who were paid. So when the NDC gave the figures of 110,000 people, it was not a figment of anybody's imagination. They were actual people who were engaged under various models of the NYP. But look at the NAPCO. And for the purposes of those who are listening, government lied to the people of this country.
Why?
Running a government is not like my grandmother selling her cocoa on the street.
Oh.
For you to spend money, my grandmother can decide that today I don't want to sell cocoa.
Yes.
Or today I want to increase the quantity or reduce the quantity. It is at her will to determine what quantity and when she sells. But when you run a government, for you to expend money, it must be approved by Parliament, and even appropriation will be approved. Government presented a budget for NAPCO to Parliament. And when they presented the budget, there was a figure that they wanted money to use for the purposes of implementing the NAPCO, program. Now, government, contrary to that, government announced that they had engaged 100,000 people. And they were paying each person 700 Ghana cedis. Is that not the case?
Over a 3-year period.
Over 3 years. Multiply 100,000 by 700 Ghana cedis. That will give you 70,000 Ghana cedis a month. Mm-hmm. Okay? We have 12 months in a year. Multiply 70,000 by 12. It will give you 840 million. Mm-hmm. That was what government told us they were spending. Yet, what they submitted for approval in Parliament was 400 million Ghana cedis. And the 400 million included setting up of regional and district offices and administrative costs. I have worked as a deputy coordinator for the National Youth Employment Program before. And I knew that to set up offices across the country and across regions and districts, you need a lot of money. So clearly, government was lying to the people of this country. So when they even claimed that they had engaged 100,000, they were paying each 700 Ghana cedis. When they brought the first budget for Parliament to be approved in 2018, I was expecting that perhaps mid-year budget, they could, because you may have a budget, a target for the 6 months. Mid-year budget, if you check 2018 mid-year financial statement, NAPCO was not mentioned. So it was a big lie. They never engaged 100,000 people. They never engaged the numbers they claimed they engaged, because government could not have told us they were financing and paying for those people from President Nanado or the farm or anybody's pocket. They ought to have paid the people from the state coffers.
But some people were employed.
Yes, but the numbers they claim, and I'm using this to buttress the point, the reason why the unemployment rate is increasing in this country, the numbers they claim they engaged was not true, because the facts do not support that. Because if you check, and that's why I challenge your viewing public, go look the 2018 financial statement and even 2019 when they came with the expenditure return, because every financial statement will tell you how much they spent, what they did. Look at it. The numbers were not the same. 400 million. They never engaged 100,000 people. They were paying them 700, but they were never up to 100,000. But you see, so when the NDC lost power in 2017, the unemployment rate actually came down. And it certainly could not be attributed to any decision or any policy intervention by this government, because you can't reap the benefit. Subsequently, 2018, the unemployment rate keeps on increasing. But let me read this, just the recent information provided to the people of this country by this government. And this one, you can find it in the mid-year budget for 2021, which was presented by the Minister for Finance in Parliament. And thank God I was in Parliament. Page 34. Mm-hmm. If you read page 34, paragraph 182, and I'm going to read, Mr. Speaker, this was the Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, unemployment continues to be a key challenge to the national development agenda. A significant proportion of the labor force, particularly the youth, is faced with the challenge of not finding jobs within the labor market. Mm-hmm. The Ghana Living Standard Survey, round 7, 2019, GLSS 7, of the Ghana Statistical Service estimates that the overall unemployment rate for the country is 8.4%. 8.4%. You see, percent. Whereas, in fact, and that is even the danger, whereas the unemployment rate, okay, of the youth, that is the youth, they describe them as those who are in the age brackets of 15 to 35, stands as 12.6%. So government himself is telling us that when they inherited unemployment rate under the NDC, which was 6.8, the unemployment rate today, this is the latest presentation by the Minister of Finance to the people of this country, in the mid-year budget. And that is why I have just read the page and the paragraph that the unemployment rate is 8.4% in this country today.
And the 2019,
no, but
which is the latest that is available. Anyway.
No, but aside from that, what they do is that usually the Ghana Statistical Service does work every day. So even if there had been a change, the minister would have indicated. Because if you take the previous ones, the indication, and you can check in the ILO website, the previous indication that it wasn't up to this particular figure. And this was an official statement made by the minister. So clearly, if you come and deceive people, that yes, we have created so much jobs under NAPCO, over 100,000, when you know that you were not telling people the truth. You never engage 100,000 people. Because if you had engaged 100,000 people, then the budget statement that is for NAPCO would have been more than 840 million. Now, you see, there's another issue. One district, one factory. My friend sat here and said, oh, they have inaugurated 100,000. You know what they are doing? They are denying this country the needed taxes. Almost all the so-called one district, one factories that they have done. Existing factories, they come see you and says, once you can agree to come on NAPCO, we give you some tax incentives and holidays. You agree to come on 1D, 1F. We'll give you some tax incentives and holidays because that is the facility that is available under the one district, one factory. So you have existing companies who have agreed to satisfy the uncontrollable ego of government to announce to the people of this country that yes, this is 1D, 1F factory. And they avoid taxes. There are existing factories. For example, you go to Tamale, the motor assembly. They have been there for years. Now, government came out, re-inaugurated it. But you see, the danger is that those people are not recruiting more people.
Are you certain of that? Because, hold on, let me just create a scenario here. So, you go through that process where government gives you incentives. Some of them even get a certain line of credit based on that.
Yeah.
If the company has been in operations for, say, 10 years, it has been unable to move from A to Z based on certain difficulties, and the government creates an enabling environment, gives you certain incentives, and that company is able to add, say, even 50 or 60 people to its existing staff. Has the government not facilitated employment?
First of all, that is the mediocre. It is the responsibility of every government to create an enabling environment for businesses to strive, for factories to set up. If you remember, the very first time President Nana Addo mentioned the 1D, 1F was after the inauguration of the Commander Sugar Factory, and he was in Western Region. The people of this country generally thought that when he said he was going to have every district a factory, people perceived the factories to be in the form of the Commander Sugar Factory. And I remember when they were launching the first pineapple tin in Akomfi. Interestingly, the Minister for Trade didn't attend. He was in Accra. He didn't go. His two deputies never participated in the launching of the Commander. And I raised this issue. I was interviewed with the minister. Then
Richard, calm down. Looking at
I was interviewed with the minister, which is Howard Kumsin. And then I said, look, you said you were going to set up factories for people. And I said, no, we said we're going to create an enabling environment for factories, for private businesses to strive. And I said, but that has been the responsibility of every government. You must create an enabling environment. Now, if government is telling us they have inaugurated and established a lot of factories, how come that the unemployment rate is worsening? Okay. As a matter of fact, it is worsening than the growth of population. But let me just last comment on what happened there. That was so dehumanizing.
You have 30 seconds.
That was so dehumanizing. That was so disrespectful. And this is not the first time. Under President Kufuor.
Why is it disrespectful?
And I'll tell you why. If you listen to some
30 seconds.
If you listen to some of the employers, they said that those who fill their forms, they will be given the opportunity to apply online. And they will go through the same process of recruitment in their jobs. So why didn't government just allow them to do that? And this is not the first time. Under President Kufuor, young people were allowed to stand in the Scottish stand to do the same thing, and none was engaged.
So you disagree with that? Now, Richard, you are a young employer. I know what you do, trying to create opportunities. There is significant concern for those who say the state is invested in things like NYEP, NAPCO. These are laudable, like the job fair that they try to do. But without players like yourself in the private sector, which is where the government needs to focus, this agenda of reducing unemployment numbers will not suffice. We'll continue to see what we saw this week.
Thank you very much. I think I agree
in certain aspects of the conversation that as a country we need to address the issues of unemployment. And the best way to address this is empowering the private sector. Because at the end, the government can do this
by itself.
But when you have a private sector, and you because we believe in even creating the private sector, making it an engine of growth, that will propel the sort of job creation and the sort of the expansion of the economy that we all desire. But there are issues that we need to put the facts out there. Anybody who tells you that it is not true, the government created opportunity for 100,000 people through the NACO arrangement, possibly did not follow the system and how it was done pretty well. I must tell you, the NACO had 3 things that certain, if you need to understand it before you can speak to it. Some of the things that it had was that, one, there are people who were being employed by a government, and remember it was supposed to be a stopgap measure that would transit into a full-blown employment. And some of them have gotten opportunity working in other state institutions because now, after serving the period, the institution found them worthy and they recruited them, and now they are full-time employees.
I think some of them also even didn't need to go
some
through
of them didn't even need to.
Exited in the
some
first
of them exited in the period. And some too were engaged by private enterprises. The private enterprises employed you, and some of my companies did employ some of the NACO people. Though the conditions that were attached to some of those arrangements was that you are engaged by the private sector company. And those private sector companies, most often than not, would want to pay you beyond, above what government is proposing. The 700 Ghana cedis that was being given to them as a stopgap measure. Remember that before President Akufo-Addo, there was nothing like that. There was total freeze on employment as a result of our engagement with job freeze with IMF and World Bank and going for policy credibility. Nurses and all those were not engaged. So there was a major challenge. One of the biggest challenges that hung around President Mohammed's neck was the issue of unemployment. So it could not be possible that during their time, the unemployment situation was better than NPP's time. But I'm telling you that the NDC has never been a standard for the NPP. We have our own standards, and that's what we want to keep to. And that's where Ghanaians continue to measure us. Now, in terms of the NAPCO arrangement, I know my brother has about 18 minutes to explain the matters.
You can look at your watch all you want. You will stop talking at 11:47.
And I'll still speak to the matters. My brother, beyond what I'm talking about, where those who are engaged by the private sector, and those private sectors, once they engage them, they get some level of incentives as a result of engaging this number of people. All these people were also part of this. There were other institutions who governmental institutions that could, and they had their own IDF that could offer some level of support in terms of paying some of the people that were engaged through this NAPCO arrangement. So some of them were paying by the institutions, the parent institution that they had opportunity of working. Some government needed to take money from elsewhere to pay them. So if you do not have the numbers of those who are engaged by the private sector who took advantage, because a private company employs somebody and the government is telling them that, you know what, when you employ this person, one, I'm paying a percentage. So the 700 Ghana cedis, government pays a percentage and you pay a top up. If you want to stick to the exact amount government is paying. A lot of private companies took opportunity of that. Now the next thing that happened for those private companies is that once you do that, there's also a directive that you make sure when they are ending their program, you employ a specific number of the people that you took. You give them full-time employment. So once you sign up, so it was an incentive that literally compelled the private sector's entities that went into the arrangement to employ people. So a good number of people. So if you do not get this fast and you do not understand it, you go about saying that because you saw 700 Ghana, because not everybody.
What is he actually saying?
Please. Let's him explain. It's not Richard. It's okay. Don't go back.
Somebody preaching that.
Go on. Just make your point.
Make your point. It's very difficult to continue
this longer.
So when you sit down and you make a basic analysis and say, okay, 100,000. There's some 400 million out sitting somewhere and dividing it by the numbers. Did you factor in the equation that some of them government had to contribute, say maybe 300 Ghana cedis or 350 Ghana cedis, and the other topper had to come from a private sector? Did you factor that into the calculation? So you are getting everything wrong. But let me go to the other matters. In terms of this government, when we came, or before the MPP came, nurses were picketing at the health ministry on a daily basis. This government has engaged over 90,000 workers within health workers. Over 90,000 and the data are there.
That's not true.
Me, the thing, anything that, of course. And they are talking about nurses, doctors, laboratory technicians, scientists, lab technicians, and all these other health workers. That the numbers are there to do that. When you go to what do you call it? Forestry Commission, we are looking at about 66,000 people who were engaged by this government
on temporary or permanent jobs.
And they have not been laid off, and they are still there working to planting of trees and other things. They are all still being engaged, and they are engaged by the government, and they are working. When you go to the other sectors like planting for food and jobs, lots of Ghanaians have been employed. Close to 1 million people have been engaged in that. And it talks about, when you ask a question about what measure did NDC put in place, and it shows some rice, something, and the rice importation went down. And I mean, look at that.
Well, that is their project.
And that was the policy that brought what? A policy that brought what?
But you
the economy was on its knees. And the economy that were told that
you cannot delink. His argument is sound because you cannot delink a project that is implemented in 2016 from progress that is made in 2017. If they can substantiate it, I'm saying.
But that's not true. I'm not talking about... That's not true. I hope you get him. That is not true.
But you go on.
And he talks about the number of people engaged by YE during the time of the NDC. I mean, when the MPP came, we needed to do some proper audit to know. The ghost names forms about 55% of the numbers they threw out there. That same people, one person, because they're usually being paid through the mobile money system. One person being paid about 4 or 5. Sharing the money among themselves. That's what was happening there.
Oh, really?
But you see, we need to understand, and as we discuss this, there are a lot of people out there who have completed university, and I can feel for them. Your parents pay your school fees, you go through all this difficulty of burning the midnight oil, then you finish and you cannot have access to employable opportunities. It's a very painful thing. But that's why government came in and further put money in NIEP. You remember that arrangement? Yes. That through the government arrangement, over 45,000 startups people were trained. We funded 10,000 of them. Then created job for 1,000 people just within that area alone. Now look at the impact of that. When you're talking about the one district, one factory, and the fact that he doesn't understand why a government would go to the aid of certain institutions. Because when we are giving the numbers as to the companies that we built from the scratch, we give you the data. When it comes to companies like maybe Daco Farms that we've known over the years, but the company literally died off. But the government came in because the people have experience and all that. They have some makeshift structures. Or government pumps money, have the factory, and it's up. You say they are doing what? We know that some company like Casaprecom, they have one assembly line producing alcohol. But government help them set up a fresh one. So when you hear one Casaprecom being mentioned as part of that, you're not talking about the entire establishment of the Casaprecom being a member of the edition, but a particular production line that has been built for that purpose. My hometown, Brekum, there's a tomato factory. The president went there to inaugurate it.
Is it working?
It's working. They're producing tomato.
In what volumes? Is it a good quantity?
Of course, because the farmers over there are enjoying. The people are getting jobs over there. Close to 8,000 direct and indirect jobs have been created within that tomato factory alone. Because the farmers are growing, of course. We are looking at distributors. We are looking at wholesalers.
Richard, are you sure?
Which one? The tomato factory?
Yes, 8,000 jobs.
What's the challenge? What's the difficulty? Because you are looking at the farmers, you are looking at those who are working at the factory itself, you are looking at the distributors and the line, within the line. All these individuals have been engaged. And that's the projection. I mean, the most important thing is that, and that is not the only factory that has been inaugurated. We are seeing Casa Glover, we are seeing cassava processing factory, watermelon factory up north, we are seeing rice processing plant. We are seeing all sorts of companies, factories being built across the country. And we're looking in excess of 100 of them. So if you think that is not a good, and I like the admissions made by my brother, Mr. Franklin Kujo, when he mentioned that some of the things that government is doing is extremely good. And sometimes we need to applaud the government on that. For us as a government, our desire is to deal with the issues that confront the people.
But does government admit that there's an employability issue?
Of course. That's why we continue to work around the clock. We are working around the clock to make sure that people get access to the relevant job opportunities and get jobs. This thing that YEA is doing, what is the purpose? Because over the period, what we've been known them for has been the traditional models: youth in community police, youth in community nursing, youth in sanitation, where Zoom Lion, and those kind of arrangements. That's what we've known. Now they say, could be beyond all these ones that we've been doing. Let's go a step further by engaging private companies, do job fairs, allow the youth, because I must tell you, during this program, there were companies that came in and the number of applications that they got were the people that were looking for. And there were not many that they needed to go through another rigorous exercise of scanning the numbers to see their abilities and all. They did them on the spot and employed them. There were people who got employment there and then. The others that needed to continue the process to the office. These are private companies that they put them together for that purpose. Remember that there's already a government arrangement that companies that employ certain number people within the youth structure would get certain incentive. We want to encourage companies to employ people. So these are some of the things government is doing. But I must tell you, underneath all of this, as a business person, if I will be able to build other branches, subsidiary, expand my line of operation, one thing that I will always be focusing on will be access to credit. At what cost can I go for a loan? And what will be the interest rate? If you can beat it now, like we've done, from the 35%,
you've beaten it down?
Of course, we brought it down. The 35% that we inherited from President Mahama to now 16 bank, as Car Bank is giving a loan at the interest rate of 16.
Out of 24 banks, there are only 2 banks who are doing those numbers.
No, but I'm saying what about the other 20? The other 20 between 16 to 22.
It is not true.
Do you understand that? Which one is not true?
It is not true. There are only 2 banks who are operating within the legally required limits that
I'm
the Bank of Ghana has. Everybody is operating 24, 23. That's what everybody is.
Let me even go by yours, which is not even the case. Because the Bank of Ghana has published the numbers, which I can forward to you.
2 weeks ago.
I have all of that on my phone. But I'm telling you, if we agree, let's even agree that all the banks, because you know that some of them, and I'm happy you admitted that.
Let's
some
agree
of them
to the truth, not falsehood.
What I'm saying,
you're telling you that you are lying.
I didn't say he's lying.
Start crying.
But what did you say?
If it was you that I jumped into,
it's okay, Richard.
You'll be crying now.
Time is not on our side.
Make my submission. You know what?
You have 30 seconds.
I'm saying, okay, it's not possible.
It is possible.
No, please, it's not possible.
My show has a director.
Don't allow this diabolic gentleman to corrupt you.
Oh, I'm
saying that even if, because now we know that because of this publication of the interest rate structure in the banking sector, banks will be compelled to be pushing their numbers down, because you know that the people, the market understands and will follow wherever the numbers are good and can assist them. So they will be pushed. So if we have a bank in Ghana that can consider and say, you know what, based on what is being done by government, I can go ahead and give a loan at the rate of 16. Remember that the Exim banks and the rest are giving 12%, 10% there and thereabout. If a bank can consider that, it means that something better is being done. So we are moving from the 35% to within the ranges of 23 to the 16. It gives you an impression that
Richard,
as a businessman, I can secure a loan and expand my operations.
Thank you very much.
See,
hold on, Richard, calm down. No. No time for I'll give you a minute when I return. I need to take a commercial. I need to pay bills. Hold on. But I also tell you that, hold on.
Statements
comrade, let me just go on a quick commercial break. I'll just tell you. Hold on. Just read the IEA's presser from Friday on what is happening in the banking sector with regards to credit. We'll be right back.
Hi, have you missed any business news this week?
Our appeal to the banks that it is not enough to show fat profits at the end of the year, publish them in the newspapers, and feel good.
Are you looking for a way to consume business news without getting lost in all of the technical language? Well, for our traders down here, all they care about is the fact that this could likely affect the cost of doing business.
We used to pay an average of $3,000 somewhere in November. Now it has shoot as much as $12,000 for a 40-footer container.
Business Weekly brings you all the top business stories of the week in an exciting manner.
Business Weekly, Sundays at 3 p.m. only on City TV.
Well, so, are you ready? Let's go.
Business Weekly is sponsored by Standard Chartered Bank. Standard Chartered Bank, here for good.
Welcome back. I'm going to just go back to Dr. Priscilla Chumesi-Balfour, who's been listening attentively.
No, but I thought I was responding to the...
nothing to respond to yet. Let me go to...
There's nothing like...
Let me go to Dr. Priscilla Chumesi-Balfour.
I told you, give me some 5 minutes.
Dr. Chumesi-Balfour, are you still with us?
You embarrass yourself.
Okay. Dr. Chumesi-Balfour, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. So I wanted to give you a final take on this, listening to all the points that we have made today on permanent jobs, temporary jobs. And I guess the concern for government, perhaps, or the focus for government, based on all I'm hearing, is yes, these state-led models are fine as temporary measures, but it is the private sector they really need to focus on, isn't it?
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. Over the years, we've seen that we've experimented with direct state interventions in trying to absorb some of the numbers that enter the labor markets. But indeed, we know that sustainable ways of solving the unemployment problem is through enabling the private sector to thrive and be the engine of growth and employment generation. So when you look at the numbers that we deal with, if you look at the employment pattern for Ghana, based on the latest Ghana Living Standards survey, you see that individuals in the formal sector, that is both the public and private, constitutes just about 28% of the labor force, meaning that less than even 1 out of 3 individuals in the labor market is in a formal sector employment. The informal sector contributes over 70% of total employment. And when you look within the formal sector, the public sector constitutes a greater chunk of the individuals in the formal sector than the private sector. And that is where the challenge is really. So if as a developing country we were developing and we are structurally changing our economy, you find that the private sector should be the leader in terms of employment generation, and that is where it's lacking. And where do all these demands come from? The demands will come from the different sectors of the economy. You are looking at agriculture, you are looking at industry, and you are looking at services. So indeed, any attempt that government would make trying to equip the private sector to lead the employment generation agenda is a right thing to do. Because if government consistently comes out with policies to absorb people onto the public purse, then it means that you'll be trying to solve one problem of unemployment, but you are creating another, because we know that our revenue generation, our revenue envelope is consistently becoming tight because of a number of issues with grants and aid that are no longer coming because of for example, our status as a middle income country. So these are real issues. So policies that are aimed at equipping the private sector, giving them incentives to employ young people, giving them credit, and giving them all the necessary infrastructure that is required. But that said, I believe that we should also be careful in trying to roll out most of these incentives to the private sector, because I was listening that under the One District, One Factory initiative, we are assisting some industries, some firms with new plants and all that. What are the modalities? What are their responsibilities? Are they supposed to be producing at certain target to be able to be in a position to continuously enjoy those benefits? Or are those benefits going to exist in perpetuity? Because we have walked that path before around the time of our independence. So these are issues that we need to discuss, and for policymakers and regulatory institutions to be on these private sector actors who are enjoying the benefits to channel the resources to the direct path to grow and absorb the masses that are looking for jobs, and not to channel the resources into other things. So the private sector, no matter what we do, should be the engine, should be the focus in any development agenda that is trying to create jobs for the masses that are entering the labor market. And like we indicated, a number of attempts have been made by the public sector, but you see that unemployment levels are not going down. Why? Because the numbers that are also entering the labor market every year continuously increase. So if the absorption capacity is less than the number that is entering the labor market, you find that attempts are being made, but the numbers are not going down. So that means that there's a holistic approach that we need to take. Employment is about livelihoods. It touches every aspect of our lives. So every government agency, institution, whatever activity that is being done, I think that we need to be conscious as to the numbers of jobs that are being created and the impact it has on employment at all aspects of the economy. And hopefully, with the right investment in collecting accurate and timely labor market information, we'll be able to come out with timely data on the employment and unemployment patterns in the country over time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafo. And that is how I'll wrap up today. Richard, put your hands down. You're not speaking again.
No,
Thank you very much, Comrade Murtala Mohammed, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Thank you very much, the Communication Director, MPP Richard.
He's deceiving the viewing public.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Big Issue. My name is Godfrey Akotobafo. Gentlemen, have a good weekend.
The total number of